All right. Welcome to the playoff wildcard edition predictions of the Lewis and Laraib podcast. I'm your host, Lewis, and next to me is my beautiful co-host, Laraib, as we're going to look at this super wildcard weekend matchups, all 6 of the games, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. I'm going to have a busy weekend. Laraib's going to have a busy weekend. So you ready just to jump right? Well, first things first. The regular season has concluded. And yes, we've been kind of busy. The uploads, there hasn't been much in the NFL news cycle. We were deciding on whether or not we should talk about like future NFL stuff, but we're going to do a lot of our off-season stuff in different podcasts. So we're going to save, new coaching hirings and stuff like that for later, whenever stuff starts to really get finalized. But we are still in the season, the postseason, but for the regular season, I am the grand champion of the box combo, winning, 14 out of the – no. I had a 4-game advantage over you, winning 11 out of I don't even know what the numbers are, but I won 4 out of 4-week advantage over you. You did win the last week, so actually it was only a 3-game advantage or 3-week advantage, but that does give me the box combo. And the cane sauce side bets – I'm up 2-1 right now because I correctly predicted the Washington football team to make it out of the NFC East, and I correctly predicted Daniel Jones would not have a turnover against the Eagles the second time they played. One is obviously less significant than the other. And Laraib, your cane sauce was from predicting the Seahawks will win the NFC West.
Free cane sauce right there.
So, Laraib, are you ready?
Yeah, man, a great week of football ahead of us. The playoffs are finally here. I mean, a lot of speculation on if the season would ever happen, if a bubble would happen for these teams. But, here we are, week 18 in the NFL, the postseason, week 1, wildcard weekend. And, let's just start off at 12 o'clock. We have the Colts against the Bills, Buffalo minus 6.5 in this game. And, Bills, one of the teams we've been high on all season long. But this week they're going to have their hands full in a Colts defense, which we really saw improved much from last year. And this season, they've fallen off a bit in the second half of the season. The secondary's been exposed, but the run game with Jonathan Taylor has really opened up. And Philip Rivers, his rapport with T.Y. Hilton really has made this Colts passing attack a lot more, better than it was earlier on in the season. But, Josh Allen, his rise this season also been great, his connection with Stephon Diggs. So I think we're, in for a good one here on first game of wildcard weekend.
Here's a few things. I've been very impressed with this Bills offense. At first, to start the season, I was a bit skeptical, and they had some, tough games in the middle, but they've really come along strong recently. The fewest amount of punts in an entire NFL season, Laraib, was the 2020 Bills this season. The fewest, all the great offenses punted more than this Bills team. So take that as you will. They were scoring more than they were giving the ball away. That's impressive nonetheless. And the biggest matchup I want to look at right now are the Colts linebackers against that 5 wide receiver, tight end, spread them out set that Brian Daboll and Josh Allen, the Bills, love to use. Because we saw in that 49ers game how often, and this was probably like the biggest showing for this Bills offense against a really good 49ers defense with proven guys on there. Yes, they were banged up, but it's against a really good, Robert Saleh, who's probably going to get a coaching job this offseason. My bet is with Detroit. But clearly a smart defensive coordinator. And what he was able to do, or what Brian Daboll was able to do against Robert Saleh's defense is he isolated the linebackers. And 49ers have some pretty good linebackers. Fred Warner was in that game. So they got all the wide receivers just split out, and Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs lined up in the slot. It was kind of like basketball, where it was just you pick your mismatches and you attack. Whoever the opposite linebacker, that usually wasn't Fred Warner. Fred Warner's a pretty good coverage linebacker. That opposite linebacker who was stuck in coverage one-on-one against any of those shifty slot receivers, those guys would just abuse them. We saw Cole Beasley have one of his best games of the season. Stephon Diggs played remarkable. And Josh Allen didn't have to make any really tough throws because of how open these receivers were getting and these one-on-one matchups down the field. So if they can utilize that, but they're in a tough matchup as well on their own end, facing this Colts defense. Darius Leonard, one of the better coverage linebackers in the entire NFL, and a pretty good secondary. You got Xavier
Xavier
Rhodes, who's been playing
Rhodes,
very well.
Booker. Yeah, they have a lot of playmakers on that defensive side of the ball.
Right. And, so it's not going to be like that 49ers game. Their secondary was beat up. So that's going to be the big matchup for me, is that 5 split out offense. How effective is it going to be against the 49ers? Because we've seen Josh Allen just pick apart defenses with Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Smoke Brown's coming back for them this week. And they're just going to abuse this Colts defense if they can't cover those slot routes.
Yeah, and for me, I think the big key in this game is going to be that Colts running attack. You know how great of an offensive line they have with, Anthony Costanzo at the helm. And then for the Bills, we talk about Matt Milano, but there's Ed Oliver and, the double safeties that have applied with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Are they going to be able to come in and stack the box and stop this Colts running game? Because that's really what their offense has been. Jonathan Taylor, explosive this year, 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards rushing with 11 touchdowns. So if you take away that Colts run game and really isolate Phillip Rivers really having to make those deep balls down the field, being covered by, someone like a Tre'Davious White or a Josh Norman. That's really where this Colts offense struggles just a little bit. T.Y. Hilton is a little bit of a down year for him, along with Zach Pascal and, the rookie Michael Pittman Jr. So for the key for the Bills is, can their defense hold up and stop that Colts run game to allow, that pass rush to get there on the Colts?
Yeah, and obviously these two quarterbacks, much different experiences in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers, a seasoned veteran, really not a great playoff performer, but he has that experience. Meanwhile, Josh Allen playing in his second playoff game, his last one coming last season with the Bills, in which they fell to the Houston Texans in overtime in a game that Josh Allen, he didn't particularly throw the ball very well, but he made a lot of plays with his legs to really keep them in that one. But key turnovers at really bad times kept the Texans also in that game. But this is a different year for Josh Allen. The expectations are high for him because, a lot of people had him MVP early, then his stock fell a bit. And then recently, he's been the hottest quarterback in the NFL, undoubtedly, in my opinion. And is that hot streak going to continue, those last few weeks and into this wild card round at home? You don't have many fans, but the Bills faithful, $10,000 a ticket. That's insane. Those are some loyal fans because I know they're going to save up all their piggy banks just to go to get the few tickets to that game. Fortunately, they can have fans at that game. But, this is a huge, huge stage for Josh Allen. All the media is already pinning Bills, Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs. But now it's up to the Bills against an experienced veteran in Phillip Rivers, a good, tenacious defense in the Colts. Can Josh Allen get it done after last year's performance? And I think with Brian Daboll under the helm, with the job he's done this year, it makes Josh Allen's life just so much easier. And it just seems like Josh Allen is so much more accurate of a quarterback. And I think he's going to get the job done this year.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Josh Allen does seem like the X factor in this game. Like we raving on him all season long about his accuracy. And this is really, really where it's going to come through for him against the Colts defense, who's played really good all season long. But I will be taking the Bills in this game. I think this is going to be a close one, especially with that Colts defense, like I said. But I just don't think Phillip Rivers will be able to keep up with the firepower that the Bills have on the offense side of the ball. I will say the Bills have struggled to run the ball a little bit with Devin Singletary and the rookie running back Zach Moss. So that's where the Colts really can get home on their pass attack led by DeForest Buckner. But I think the Bills can pull this one out. Give me the Bills 28-24.
I'm also going to take the Bills. I really think I like a lot what they're doing on offense with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley working the slot against those slower linebackers who, Darius Leonard is great, but recently teams, with running backs out of the backfield have been abusing this Colts defense. So they need to figure out how to utilize space and tackle in space. And if they cannot, I have the Bills winning this one. So give me the Bills in this one. I'm going to go a bit lower scoring for at least for the Bills and how they've been playing, but give me 28-23. Bills come out of this with a W.
All right. Moving on to another game at the 3 o'clock schedule, we have the Los Angeles Rams playing against Seattle Seahawks. Seattle -3.5 in this game. A couple of questions in this one. If, if Jared Goff will be playing in this game. But really, it's going to be that Rams stout defense going up against a Seattle offense, which has really slowed down in the past couple of weeks, but that Seattle defense, which had a nice surge in the past couple of weeks as well. But, this is going to be the third time these two teams have played each other this year, and they've both been tight, contested games, going back and forth all the time, really. And it comes down to which defense is going to bend first or which offense is going to take off first. And I really have to put my trust in Russell Wilson. Start off the year, MVP type caliber, breakout year from DK Metcalf. The running backs are banged up all season long, but now it looks like the team is finally healthy all together now, and they've been rolling the past couple of weeks. But, you're going against the Rams defense, which, led by Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, can, on any given Sunday just completely ruin another team's offensive game plan. And they've done it to the Seahawks. Out of the last 9 games, the Rams have won 7 out of them. So, I mean, this ball game can go either which way.
Yeah, it's like a tale of two seasons for the Seahawks. It was the first half of the season was let Russ cook, averaging 40 points a game, Russ MVP, but the defense was just god-awful, and they were giving up the most yards in, NFL history. And then you flip it on a complete 180, and this defense is just tenacious, getting after the quarterback. Jamal Adams is back and healthy for most part, and he does have a shoulder injury, but he will be playing in this game. But, he's really the trendsetter. They get Carlos Dunlap, who's also getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. But this offense was struggling, at least especially in the last 4 games, averaging a little bit over 200 yards a contest, which, against, decent defenses, but not exactly world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. And against this Rams defense, who, yes, Pete Carroll is very familiar with, Russell Wilson very familiar with, and a confident Rams team. I've been seeing a lot of really bodacious comments coming from these Rams saying, this is the matchup we wanted, and we're going to be back where we were 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So this is a confident Rams team coming in here. Tenacious defense. Obviously, the story of this game is the defense, but the biggest thing in my mind is at the end of the day, you need to score points. And be it John Wolford or Jared Goff, it's going to be a very tough time putting up points against the Seattle pass rush, which has been on fire the past few weeks. Jamal Adams, Carlos Dunlap, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, all these guys. Is Jarron Reed playing in this game?
Yeah, I think everyone on the defensive side will be playing in the game. I know Shaquille Griffin is on the injury report listed with a hamstring injury, but he is all good to go for the game.
Yeah, because I saw he had an oblique injury for Jarron Reed earlier. But it does seem like he is playing. No DJ Dallas, though, unfortunately. But I like the Seahawks in this matchup. I just think their offense is – I think if somehow Pete Carroll can put a little bit of let Russ cook magic and then put a little bit of blitzing, ferocious defense and mesh it together, you're going to get the best of both worlds and have a ferocious Seattle team, which I've only seen that type of performance this year against the Jets, where it was just dominant performances from both sides of the ball. We need to see that in order to beat this Rams team, which, yes, this Rams team is not great at quarterback, but Sean McVay's genius and some of these skill players, Andrew Whitworth will be back for this game after missing the last 4 weeks with a MCL injury. So, they still have a lot of talent on this offensive side of the ball. And their defense, if they can force some turnovers, get Russ into pressured situations with Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, and all these guys, it's going to be a tough game for Russell Wilson. But I still trust Russell Wilson's leadership, his experience, and that's going to give me the edge for the Seahawks over the Rams based off the quarterbacks.
Yeah, and that's really what this game is going to come down to. Which defense can create more turnovers and give their offense better field position, right? I know the Rams, despite all the struggles, like you're saying, that they have on offensive skill players with Robert Woods, they get Cam Akers back for this game, and Cooper Kupp is going to come off the COVID list. So, I mean, their offense, besides the quarterback position, John Wolford, he played pretty well last week to give them the spot in the playoffs. So, I mean, props off to him. I know Jared Goff, he was throwing the football last Sunday, but he's still questionable for this game just because, you really don't know how well that thumb is going to be, especially in the cold up in Seattle. But, just like you're saying, I think it's going to come down to the turnover differential And I trust the Seahawks offense. If, Jared Goff or John Wolford are most likely to have more, costly plays for the team than someone like Russell Wilson is going to have or Chris Carson is going to have. So because of that, I'll take the Seahawks in this one. It's going to be a nice, close one, gut-wrenching for the Seahawks fans as usual. But I think Seattle can pull it out for this one. It's going to be tight, but give me the Seahawks 24, Rams 21.
I agree. This is going to be a very close, I'm going to say lower scoring than that. Two really good defenses, but Russell Wilson with his experience and Pete Carroll in these type of moments, they're just going to find a way, to make it difficult for their fans, but also find a way to get it done in the end and move on to the divisional round. Give me the Seahawks in this game, 16-10.
Okay, moving on to the final game of Saturday, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Washington to play the football team. Tampa Bay -8 in this one. And you know what? I think that spread is going to be a little too high. If we look at this Buccaneers team, their 5 losses have come against teams who have really been able to put the pressure on the quarterback. And what does this Washington front seven like to do? They're top 5 in pass rush this year, top 5 in sacks, led by Chase Young. Every single one of those players on that defensive line for Washington is a first-round pick, so we know they have some playmakers on there, and it's going to give Tom Brady some fits. I know it's like this. All the games have lost, the Saints and the Bears and, the Rams. They're able to get pressure on the quarterback, and I think it's going to be, key for success for the Washington football team. But on the offensive side of the ball for them, I think they're really going to struggle once again because, the Buccaneers, as much as they hate getting pass rushed on, they also are one of the most highest blitzing teams in the NFL, led by Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, who always likes to put the hurt on the quarterback. And I know Alex Smith is questionable for this game with the calf injury. And, I really don't think the offense is going to be able to compete with Tampa Bay's.
Right. And I agree with you. Like, this will be a tough test for Tom Brady in the first round in this offense. We've seen how he's performed, especially in prime time against good defenses. He really does not play that well. But I trust a stuttering Tampa offense much more than I trust this Alex Smith-led football team offense. Yes, it's a great story. Alex Smith coming back, absolute, phenomenal story. Comeback player of the year in my book, no question. But the thing is, he's not a good quarterback, at least at this point, because he's so immobile with his injury, the calf injury, and he's still – it's not, the surgery leg, but it's opposite leg, so it almost makes him more immobile because he has no good leg to really move and bounce off of. So at that point, it's like the Bucs are going to get Shaquille Barrett back. They have a really good pass rush with JPP. Vita Vea will be back for this game, missing most of the season. And, this front for the Bucs is really ferocious, and I expect them to get after Alex Smith and get pressure on him. What they've been trying to do recently is just quick game. They understand that the less time Alex Smith is in the pocket, the better. So really quick, out of the backfield, 2 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, and trying to let their receivers and running backs do a lot of out of the backfield. But they're also dealing with a bunch of injuries to their skill players. Antonio Gibson has really been hindered by this turf toe, and that's like one of the worst running backs that are one of the worst injuries that a running back can suffer, because that's huge into cutting and changing direction and, really putting weight on that area to balance and burst out of different cuts. And then Terry McLaurin's been dealing with lower leg injuries as well. He was in a boot about like a week and a half ago for an ankle injury. So this is not a very healthy football team, and this is not a good matchup whatsoever. If the only way I can see them winning this game is if this defense absolutely stifles Tom Brady the way that the New Orleans Saints defense did in that Week 11 Sunday Night Football game, only allowing 3 points. Because honestly, if Tampa can score 20 points in this game, it is over.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, he is comeback player of the year this year. But just like you're saying, having 2 bum legs, really, there's not much he's going to be able to do. I know the Buccaneers will be missing Devin White for this game, but like you're saying, they have a ton of playmakers on the side of the ball. The one area they can be exposed is, with their cornerbacks and their secondary. But Washington just doesn't have anything like that. I know, as I was saying, Terry McLaurin dealing with an ankle injury. he's not really 100%. And besides that, Logan Thomas has played well, but outside of that, nothing really. Nobody's like, oh, who's going to be able to just expose this Buccaneers defense like Tyreek Hill was. Tyreek Hill was able to, a couple of weeks ago when they were playing against the Chiefs. So give me the Buccaneers in this one. I think if their offense was like saying put up 20, 21 points in this game and you have an easy win in Washington. So give me the Buccaneers 21-14.
Right. I mean, it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I really think, Tom Brady's going to get it done late, and this football team offense is just going to have no really shot to match score for score down the stretch of the game. And I see this game going Buccaneers 23 to Washington 10. I just don't think it's going to be very competitive towards the end of the game. They're going to have a bunch of highlights. Chase Young's going to get a few good tackles for losses here and there. But Tom Brady's experience is really going to be the determining factor in this game to who is going to pull it out in the end. But now that recaps all the Saturday games. So in recap, we did not disagree on any of the picks. We both picked Buffalo, we both picked Seattle, and we both picked Tampa. Now let's see if that trend is going to stay the same, which I'm pretty sure it may not. In this upcoming day, the Sunday games, some of the, they put some of the better matchups in the Sunday games, even though some of these games are going to be pretty ugly with some good defense, not so great offense. But first game, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Tennessee to face the Titans. Baltimore is favored on the road by 3.5 points. So, Laraib, who do you got?
I like the Tennessee Titans in this matchup. This will be the third time these two teams will be playing each other in the past 2 years. And both times it's been the Titans offense led by Derrick Henry, who's been able to stifle, that Ravens great defense and able to put points up on the board and really just run away with the games. The Ravens, they will be getting back. Calais came over for this game, and, they brought in people like Derek Wolfe over the offseason to stop people like Derrick Henry. But I think the Titans, despite what they lack on the defensive side of the ball, they make it up on the offensive side of the ball. Ryan Tannehill, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the game, in my opinion. I know he was comeback player of the year last year, but this year he's put up, 3,800 passing yards along with 33 touchdowns, not very many interceptions. And he's led the Titans team to, 11-5 record, and they'll be hosting a home playoff game. So the Titans team is very underrated. But, on the other side of the ball, what happened to this Ravens team last year when they faced the Titans was the Titans got off to a big lead and Lamar Jackson wasn't able to throw them back into the game. And I see something like that happening once again. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I really thought he would improve as a passer over the offseason, but he really didn't do anything this year to, show that to me. And this game, I know the Titans, they lack a pass rush. The secondary is kind of, not what it was last year, but I still believe they can pull this game out.
So this is where I have to disagree with you. I have not been impressed whatsoever with this Titans defense all season. And the way that Lamar and this Ravens offense have really hit their stride the last few weeks. Now, we understand the struggles they've had this season, dealing with the huge COVID outbreak, and they just, Lamar got COVID. They lost a few games without him on the field, and it was looking very rough for this team. But the past few games, Laraib, even though they are the 5th seed in the AFC, the biggest scoring margin of all 32 NFL teams is the Baltimore Ravens at plus 216. So that tells me that in close games, the games they lose are close down to the wire. And there's been games in which they had no business being in, no Lamar Jackson, no any of their running backs, a ton of COVID injuries or COVID, people missing, and they still only managed to lose by one score. And the games they win big. Now, you bring up a good point with the past few games they played the Titans, but let's look at this season. In the game they played, overtime win, we know Derrick Henry had that 30-yard touchdown. No, Calais Campbell did not play in that game. Brandon Williams did not play in that game. And those are going to be huge defensive factors against Derrick Henry to stop the run. Now, if you can stop Derrick Henry, you are also, by the transitive property, you're going to stop that play action game because you're not going to bite as much. You can afford to lose a few defenders in the box and really prevent those shots to an A.J. Brown or a Corey Davis that has made this Titans offense so electric. but the Titans' Achilles heel is their defense. And the way the Ravens have been running the ball, 200 plus rushing yards in 4 out of their last 5 games, including 190 yards against the Titans the last time they played. They just couldn't cash it in as much. But the way J.K. Dobbins has been playing recently, leading the league in the regular season and yards per carry, Lamar Jackson is looking as healthy as he's been all season. I expect the Ravens to have an offensive showing in this one against this porous Titans defense. And in those passing situations, which are very vaunted, and we know it's the Achilles heel of this Ravens team, that if they get down in a game, how are they going to get out? But this is a defense that I can see Lamar picking apart, even in those situations, if they might be down in this game.
Lamar Jackson 0-2 in playoff games, and he's about to be 0-3 against the Tennessee Titans team, which is still not satisfied after beating the Ravens in their last 2 meetings. I think Derrick Henry, you talk about the winter times, it is Derrick Henry time. 46 degrees is a forecast for this game. I expect Derrick Henry to have another outstanding performance against his sons on the Ravens defense that he's absolutely owned over the past couple seasons. And I can just trust Ryan Tannehill more than I can Lamar Jackson, despite how well they've been playing the past couple weeks. I'm taking the Titans in this one. This is probably going to be one of the best games, if not the best game from this wild card weekend. I think this is going to be one that comes down to the wire. But I put my faith in the Titans to pull this one out. Give me the Titans. It's going to be a fun one to watch, high scoring. Give me the Titans 31-28.
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit higher scoring than you, but I believe the Ravens can get it done. Now, we saw in those playoff games that Ryan Tannehill played, in his last 2, he attempted 29 pass attempts in both those games. So we saw how much faith this Tennessee offense had in him in the spots where it mattered the most. However, in this game, his true colors are going to show against a really good, tenacious Ravens defense. They're going to stop Derrick Henry, but not totally stop him, because the final score of this game, I have the Ravens 46 to Titans 41. Absolute game of the year
points.
As the Ravens go back to Kansas City and get their revenge. But we'll get to that game when we get to that game. Ravens win this one big.
Okay, moving on to the 3 o'clock schedule. We have the Chicago Bears playing New Orleans Saints. New Orleans -10. I think this is going to be one of those games, one of the least, what's the word I'm looking for here? Least watchable games of the weekend.
Are you kidding me? It's on Nickelodeon.
Chicago Bears with a 6-game losing streak barely eked into the playoffs after, a late season drop-off from the Cardinals. And, the New Orleans Saints, everything is getting right for them right here, right? Healthy Drew Brees. Michael Thomas will be back for this game. Alvin Kamara is going to be playing in this game since it is on a Sunday, and he will meet his COVID protocols. So I think this is going to be one of those games where, the Saints just go up big, go up big very early, and Chicago Bears, they score a couple late garbage time touchdowns, really make it look closer than it is. I know Drew Brees, this is most likely his final season, and to see him go out with the Super Bowl ring is probably one of my biggest hopes for the season, besides the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. And this is where it starts for them, right? You're going up against a Bears team which is not very good on the offensive side of the ball. I know they picked it up a little bit, but they've really been playing against sorry teams like, the Texans and, somewhat all these and the Lions, where they're really able to get the run game going with David Montgomery. But this week, you're facing that Saints front seven, they're going to have a hard time, running it. And Mitch Trubisky, I really can't trust him throwing the ball.
Some said this was the worst 5-1 team of all time. Some said it might be the best 5-1 team of all time. Needless to say, by nook or by crook, they're here in the playoffs to take their revenge on all the haters who said they couldn't be here, to count them out, to doubt them all season. My co-host being the biggest Bear hater, Trubisky liar, unlike me. Now, this is a game in which, take you back a few weeks, Laraib, when the Philadelphia Eagles hosted the New Orleans Saints. What was the big key in that game? It was a mobile quarterback and a struggling running game, exposing the Saints defense with huge runs from Miles Sanders. Jalen Hurts using his legs as well to not only run, but to get out of the pocket and create opportunities for his wide receivers. So Mitch Trubisky and David Montgomery. David Montgomery has been one of the hottest running backs in this past few weeks. He had a little injury scare in that Packers game, but he will be playing in this game at nearly full health. So what I see from Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears offense, if they can get him out of the pocket, move him a lot, motion receivers, get the Saints defense, which is very man-heavy, guessing, and it just takes that, you can't play man coverage for that long. And when you have a quarterback who's mobile like Trubisky, when he gets out of the pocket and he can find those receivers, just kind of playing backyard football against some of these Saints corners, they can be very effective on offense. And, there's the delayed handoffs to David Montgomery. And, I think it'll be enough to get them to 17 points in this game. Meanwhile, the Saints are going to be up 36 to 17 at that point. So it's not really going to matter the offensive strategy. The Bears should not be in the playoffs. I feel bad for the 10-6 Dolphins who are going to have to watch this game and just say, like, oh, this just was not our year. Because this Bears team, yes, they had a hot start against really bad teams. But, yeah, you're supposed to beat the bad teams. Good for you, Chicago. But the big thing, all of those points I made before were legitimate, and those are legitimate concerns I have for the Saints defense. But I just don't think the Chicago Bears defense, which has been the strength of their team all season, can contend with the Saints offense. Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and Drew Brees, who've only played 10 quarters this entire season together, are all going to be healthy and all active for this game. And I just don't see how the Bears are going to be able to stop all three. Emmanuel Sanders and Drew Brees have been clicking the past few weeks with Michael Thomas out. Marquez Callaway has gotten more trust with Drew Brees. And then all the Taysom Hill stuff. Taysom Hill's confidence has grown exponentially since his starts in the NFL. So that's going to make him even more of a threat in the playoffs. And we saw how effective he was in the loss to Minnesota last year. And at times he was the best player on that field in a game, with another tough PI call at the end. But this year, the Saints get the monkey off their back. They realize they exercise their playoff demons, and they're going to move on forward. Give me the Saints 36 to Chicago 23.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you said. I know the Bears, they've been a hot streak a little bit, but last week when they really needed to get a win to really secure the playoff spot, they lost 35-16 to their divisional opponents in the Packers. And this week, when they really going to need, something out of Mitch Trubisky, he's going to come up short once again. I think the Saints get it done, just like you're saying. Everyone is back and healthy on their offense. I think they're going to look unstoppable this weekend, despite how good that Bears defense is. Give me the Saints in this one, 35-17.
All right, so we're going to our final game of the Super Wild Card Weekend. Browns traveling to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. Pittsburgh is favored by 6. This game will be on NBC. Laraib, what exactly are the Browns? How much is the Kevin Stefanski loss going to affect the Browns in this game?
I cannot even put into words, Lewis, how big of a loss this is for the Browns. Their primary play caller will not be in for this game. The guy who's been with Baker Mayfield all season long, with the running back group all season long, calling the plays, brought this team to 11-5 record, will not be there calling the plays for this team, and it's going to hurt them a lot against the Steelers team, which they almost lost to last week, who were resting all of their big players on the defensive side of the ball, along with quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. So for this one, I think it's going to be, it's going to be a murder out there. Especially, we don't know who's going to be calling the play calls for this one, but maybe the run game can get something going for the Browns, but I don't think so against that Steelers front seven.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing is all the points you just made were, very notable because of how Kevin Stefanski is he's the primary play caller. People are underplaying this, but it is such a huge factor in the game because like you said, it's a trust factor. Having him on the sideline is huge for this Browns team. And you really can't get past that point. of how big he's been. Coach of the Year candidate. But besides all that, how I see the Browns potentially pulling off this upset is their defense needs to step up. Their secondary has not been great all season. Sendejo, all the Browns fans complain about him, well, rightfully so, because he's not been playing well all season. But, I need to see a big game from Denzel Ward. I've been talking him up most of the season, but he kind of fell off. And, Pittsburgh's probably got the best trio of receivers, maybe outside of the Buccaneers in the entire NFL. And they really need to show up in this game. We've, talked about them all season, the TikToks, the antics off the field. This is when they need to show up. This is where you make your money in the playoffs against, a team that you should beat at home. And we understand last week you lost to them. You weren't playing most of your starters, and you still almost beat them. So what's the excuse for losing with all your starters playing in a game where your defense mauled them the first time you played? And I don't understand a way that the Browns could win this unless their defense stifles Big Ben and these dynamic receivers for the Steelers.
Yeah, the Browns have not won a game in Pittsburgh since 2004, and that's when Ben Roethlisberger was drafted, and I really don't see them doing it again this year. Just like you're saying, if the Browns can somehow, stop that the Steelers offense, or, on the, flip it on the other side, what if just the Steelers offense just plays terribly and, the Browns defense doesn't really need to play that good? Steelers come out flat on offense after resting most of their starters, and they really can't get anything going. That's when I see that Browns run game really come to life and really get things going against the Steelers defense. And Baker Mayfield, we see him in the play action game, has really been effective this year. But, besides that, I think Ben Roethlisberger, after a week off, I think he gets it done at home against the Browns. So give me the Steelers 30-20.
I agree. I just this Steelers pass rush. I just don't see Baker Mayfield being an effective quarterback with this level of a pass rush in his face all game. I especially, we can say oh, he's been better without Odell Beckham Jr., but this is a game that Odell would be a huge threat for you just as a wild card. But now and yes, you missing receivers because of COVID. That's why you dropped that game to the Jets. I get it. But these receivers need to step up for you as well, because let's prove it. Prove it that you don't need Odell. Prove it that Baker's a changed quarterback and those commercials are going to really make their money's worth. But I just don't see him being effective against the Steelers pass rush. And honestly, I have the Steelers winning big in this game. I just don't see how this Browns team can generate offense if they go down to an early hole, which I think they will. So give me the Steelers in this game. I'm going to go 23-13.
Yeah, and the big thing in this game is going to be for, most likely the Steelers are going to win this game pretty easily. But for the Browns, Baker, make this a game. Make this a competitive game. The last game of Wild Card Weekend on, NBC, make it a game. Prove all the doubters wrong. I know you're most likely not going to win, but at least show that the Browns have some sort of future. Even, the running game is what's really gotten you here all season long. But if you want to stay as a quarterback of the Browns and really prove why you deserve to be here, why you deserve to be number one overall pick, make this a game and, force the Steelers to have a good one to beat you in the playoffs.
And Steelers, prove that those last, half of the season was a fluke. Prove that you have a running game, because if you do go up and you put Baker Mayfield in a situation where he has to come back and beat you, don't give him more opportunities by going 3 and out, because you just cannot run the ball. You need to establish the run in this game, or at least get a viable running game going, so you're not putting your team in third and long positions and giving Baker Mayfield more possessions. Because even the worst offenses in the league, if you give them more opportunities, that's a higher chance for them to score more points. So if you get up in this game, you need to run the football. Don't go gun shy, gung ho. Oh, we can just throw the ball all around the field, all around the yard, and just, embarrass this Brown secondary. There needs to be a point. This is January football, playoff football, where your offensive line needs to bully their defensive front, and you need to win those trench battles. So prove it to me, Steelers offensive line and Steelers running backs, that you can win this game and just step on the throat of your younger brother in the division the rag doll in the division, prove they don't even belong in the same yard as you, and go and move on to the next round in the playoffs.
Yep. So I think that will wrap up our predictions
Wait,
for.
Laraib. One quick question. So we just covered 6 games, right? Out of these 6, well, actually, I'm going to take one. I'm going to take Titans, Ravens out. Out of the 5 we've agreed on, which one would surprise you the least if the team we picked did not come through?
You just gonna throw it on me like that? Of course, it's the Seattle Seahawks. Just like I was saying, 7 out of the last 9 games, the Rams have beaten the Seahawks, and this has been a tight division the past couple of years, and these teams go back and forth. And I really would not be surprised if my Seahawks somehow lose to either Jared Goff or John Wolford against the Rams on Saturday.
This might be a hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised if this Sunday or the Monday headline, or I guess Sunday headline, is going to be Josh Allen did what? And the Colts come out and they just play more physical. They're able to run the ball, and they can get pressure on Josh Allen because we haven't really seen him really pressured recently, and credit to the Bills' offensive line. But if DeForest Buckner and those boys can get to Josh Allen, this could be another tough playoff game for him. And then we have to look to him like we did Lamar last season and say, yes, you can have great regular seasons, but can you do it when it matters most? We both believe he can.
Well, it's a good thing that Josh Allen knows how to throw a football accurately down the field, huh?
Right. But there's another
Lamar
whole
Jackson
thing about doing it in the playoffs, which is the biggest stage against the best defenses. And that is why we are so excited to watch all these games. And please hear what you think about all these games in the comment section down below. But those are the picks for this week's games. We're going to have our reactions posted next week along with our predictions for the divisional round. So as it stands right now, Laraib, the matchups we have are Green Bay hosting Tampa, New Orleans hosting Seattle. Based off of our predictions,
that's going to be a spicy
that's
one.
going to be very good considering I'm a New Orleans Saints fan and my beautiful co-host here is a ugly Seahawks fan. And then I have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Kansas City. Meanwhile, Laraib here has the Tennessee Titans traveling to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. And we both have the Bills hosting the Steelers for the divisional round. So let's see if those go as planned for our scenarios. But that will do it for this week's episode. Links to our Instagram and Twitter will be in the bio down below so you can stay updated on whenever we post. But anything else, Laraib, you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to, congratulate everyone to keep on watching the podcast. I know we've been off for, a couple of weeks, but thank you all so much for watching. And, you're looking at all these games for this week for Super Wildcard Weekend. But think back to last year and think about how many teams were considered locks to win those game, and think about how many of those locks actually lost and were upset in Wildcard Weekend. So get ready for the playoffs, everybody. Anything can happen on any given Saturday or Sunday, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Peace.